Hello everyone, my name is Ravi Kumar, President at Infosys. We are at the World Economic Forum Davos 2020, and I have two distinguished guests in the Infosys lounge. Erik from MIT, the MIT Digital Initiative. Second guest I have is George Oliver, the Chairman and CEO of Johnson Controls. Thank you, George. Thank you, Erik, for joining us today. So my first question to you, Erik, you did speak about productivity in the panel, and you did say that productivity is, increase in productivity is going down, and AI and machines counterintuitively can help us get it back, versus what we think that machines have actually taken away productivity in a way. Tell us a little bit about the research
Sure.
you've been working on.
Well, this was one of the biggest puzzles I came across when we call it a productivity paradox. I think all of us here would agree that the raw capabilities of the technology are just eye-popping. What you can do with machine learning in terms of being able to recognize images or diagnose diseases, now understand speech, solve so many problems is really impressive. But then when you look at the productivity data, productivity has slowed down in just about every major country. We used to be growing at about 2.8% productivity growth. The most recent 10 years has been 1.3%. In fact, last quarter in the United States, there was actually negative productivity growth, which rarely happens. What's going on? I think the story is not that the technology is unimpressive. The story is that we aren't doing a good enough job to translate that technology into changes in workplace practices, into new business processes, into new goods and services. That's the hard work. That requires a lot of creativity, it requires new skills, and we've been falling down on that. So my mission is to help educate managers and business executives and policymakers about how we can use these amazing technologies, not just to have laboratory curiosities, but really change the lives of typical people and change the way the work is done.
Awesome, thank you so much. Switching over, George, you and I have spoken about the biggest leap in the space of AI will be manufacturing, industrial, the interface, between physical and digital, and you're running a firm which is in the middle of that. How are you dealing with reskilling, and whose responsibility is that? Is it the organization or the individuals?
Yeah, so what I would say is all industrial companies are going through a pretty major transformation driven by the digital capabilities, connectivity, use of data, the application of the data with machine learning and AI. And so no matter right from manufacturing right up through how we ultimately engage customers and sell to customers, every role now has an opportunity to embrace the use of digital, deploy data, and ultimately create better outcomes. And so, as we discussed on our panel today, we have problem solvers, we have problem finders. And I think we've trained our organizations to be problem solvers. So you can incrementally improve everything we do now with the use of data. And ultimately, that is driving a lot of success. I think what we're seeing, like for instance in our space, that if you look at the bigger picture, that now the combination of all of what we do with the use of data can now create much bigger outcomes. For instance, in our space, it's around sustainability. It's the whole theme of WEF, the ability to be able to reduce energy intensity or energy consumption by 30, 40, 50%. That is doable today with the way that we can ultimately, from a customer standpoint, work with our customers and then redefine how we work with them. But that requires a significant amount of change. And it's not only internally the skill sets that are required to bring that capability to our customers, and then throughout our entire supply chain, how do we deploy digital technologies that enable us to be able to operate with speed, being more efficient. And I think successful companies longer term are going to be sustained because of employee engagement. And we're also learning that the high performing companies start with high engagement at the bottom. And so with this reskilling that's taken place is how do you get that level of the workforce, the tools and the capabilities, and empower them to be able to ultimately drive change. Where historically change in these industrial companies has been driven by the top. And so it's got to be both bottoms up as well as from a leadership standpoint, the understanding of what the possible can be, with the deployment of digital across all of our business processes.
Thank you, George. Erik, over to you. The more I think about it, and you're part of an academic institution, professor at Sloan School, most universities across the world are pivoted to a paradigm of B2C, I call it. Mm-hmm. They directly work with students. They do research with organizations like ours, but they really don't have a construct for B2B, to work with organizations and institutions to help on reskilling. Tell us a little bit about what is the paradigm shift you think academic institutions have to do to move from B2C to B2B, as I call it?
Well, this is one of the things I love about MIT, because MIT is one of the universities that's most engaged with business. MIT's motto is mind and hand, and it's really about doing practical things, not just theorizing. And so my own initiative, the MIT Initiative on the Digital Economy, works with a lot of large organizations. And the courses that I teach, for instance, the Analytics Lab, what we do is we partner with 25 companies who share data with us, remove the personally identifiable information, and then the students, each student team works with one of the companies, and so there's really a lot of interaction. And so it's B to B to C, if you will, where companies and the students, as well as MIT, are all engaged in a partnership that we think creates values for the students, the companies, and expands broader knowledge. I see this as a paradigm that's becoming more and more common. I've been spending a lot of time out at Stanford, and they do that a lot. I think a lot of engineering schools have an advantage in doing this because it's normal to work with real business and practical problems in those kinds of organizations. But over time, I think the entire academy will be more transformed along the direction you say. And that may get back to what you raised earlier, this question of the productivity paradox. If we can convey the knowledge to business executives and have them transform their companies, then we don't just have amazing technologies, we also have some business results.
Thank you, Erik. That's a template which I think all academic institutions should kind of emulate in many ways. Switching gear, George, I know you're kind of weaving digital technologies and data in the middle of all your products, and in some sense you're building a services ecosystem around it. That needs a huge uplift of skills, from being a company which was doing building efficiencies to being a digital smart spaces firm. How much is reskilling a constraint in that, and how much is capability building a constraint in that?
Yeah, what I would say, it starts with the customer. So what we're working pretty intensely with is our customers and understanding what the value proposition is as we begin to deploy, broader solutions that ultimately are leveraging all of the data that we collect through our systems, and then how we apply AI and machine learning that ultimately creates outcomes that historically we haven't been able to produce. And so it starts there. So customer back, then defining what the possible is with how we can take, we have an incredible portfolio of not only our equipment, our HVAC equipment, but also all of the building management systems that now coming together with the use of the data that's collected from those systems, we have an incredible opportunity to create much bigger outcomes for our customers. But it does require the customer engagement, the customer back. Then with that, from a skill set standpoint, it's making sure that we are developing the teams and recruiting the talent, developing the teams that ultimately are capable of being able to be successful in how we deploy that technology with our customers. But it is a journey, and it does require not only new organizations. We recently have brought in a chief customer digital officer that truly is beginning to define what those outcomes need to be, and then quickly reallocating our resources so that we're going to be successful in how we ultimately achieve those outcomes. And then that's customer back. What I would say internally, what I would say is there's an infinite opportunity to improve our current processes with the use of digital. So it's not only in how we develop our new products, but execute on the new product development and ultimately deploy the installations that we perform. And more important, as we build that installed base, building a service business on that installed base over the life cycle, that because of our combined capabilities, that we're best positioned to differentiate the solutions that we provide.
So So thank you, George. Thank you, Erik, for talking to us at the Infosys Lounge at Davos World Economic Forum 2020. And have a good time for the rest of the week. Thank you again for
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's been a
Ravi.
real pleasure.
Thank you.